Okay, so I have my black and white composition. And if I'm happy with it, there's little places I can touch up here. If I'm happy with it, then I can just save it as a JPEG, print it, upload it, do what I want from there. There we go. And I could spend a long time kind of zooming in and fine-tuning it and connecting lines and making everything perfect. But this is just to get used to the layers. So if I'm happy with that, I would say save as, and it's not a bad idea to do this just to show your process, and to save it as a JPEG. But I might add to my title black and white, because this version is only black and white, which has certain functions that might be different. So the only thing I did wrong there was when I saved it, I didn't navigate it to the desktop, right? So it went automatically into my folder. And when you save new things in your working process, I want you to save them to the desktop so you can verify that they actually save just by watching them populate. So I'll do it again. Black and white JPEG to the desktop this time. Easy shortcut for that is Command D when you're on this search window. 2 megabytes, that sounds good, even at the highest quality. So there it is. Okay, now, if I look back at Arturo Herrera, I've just done this kind of thing. Made my own composition out of found lines. But what if I wanted to add color? Especially on a white background, the red has a little bit more pop. So how could I do that? Well, now I can take all of my different layers and select them all. It's a little bit bigger so you can see. So I have 5 layers on top of a blank white background. I'll take all 5 layers and I'm going to merge them into one layer by going to Layer, Merge Layers. Command E is the shortcut. Okay, now this is all one layer, and it is actually a normal layer. So now to replace the color, I have a few options. But I want to still get rid of all the white, because I had white in those various layers. When it merged it, that white came back. So now I'm going to select all that white, turning off contiguous, using the magic wand, a tolerance of 32. And I'm going to select somewhere. Let me see. See, there's a lot of white to be selected. So if your tool isn't working the way it's supposed to, in the way that you are expecting it to, check up here. My setting, I accidentally clicked here, which is a very limited setting. So I'm selecting all the whites now. Now I'm just going to hit delete. And now all the whites are gone. So you just have black lines and the checkerboard. What's nice about that? Well, I can, just like I thickened lines with the stroke, I can double click on that, and I can, instead of saying strokes, click on color overlay. And I can replace that black with a color. Let's say a vibrant red. And if it doesn't do what you want it to, show the red, it's because your the mode of your file might not be full color. So then you go to image mode, RGB color, don't merge your layers, and then try it again. And then it will allow for color. Then I can turn on the white background, and you can see that vibrant red. Now what if that's not the exact red I want? Maybe I want this deeper red. Well, you just go to color overlay, you select on the color selector, and you can pick a different red. And if you need more options in the web colors, you have this sliding scale. You can get it just exactly where you want it. Okay, that looks pretty cool. What if I want more options? Instead of just a solid color, what if I want something crazy like this? Right? Well, then you go back to your Google image search, and I might look for a comics page colored. really anywhere you can get color from. This Captain America looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. It's good if it's a high resolution. So again, search tools, size, larger than 6 megapixels. Something colorful and fun. I could even just look up a pattern. This one looks pretty cool. And I'm just right-clicking, opening links in new tabs, seeing what's available. And again, I'm rushing through. This is just something to react to. Actually, I really like this Oswald the Rabbit cover. And then if I wanted something just warmer. So there's that. Yeah, it's okay. It's a little fussy. There's this. I'm liking this. It's fan art. It's colorful. I'm not going to use it. You'll see. I'm not going to use it for exactly as you see it there. I'm just using it as a background. And I like this one too. And I especially like the bin day dots you can see from the actual printing. We'll learn how to do that later in class. To optimize for printing presses. And that one, yeah, that one's kind of boring. All right. So now, if I want to bring a background in, I simply, like we've done before, drag and drop, and then I can stretch it to fill the screen. So I'm just using it for color. Then I can move it behind, right? And now this is what's kind of cool. I'm going to use my magic wand. I have contiguous unchecked. I select all the empty space. And then I say select inverse. And that will reverse it, so it's selecting just the lines that I want to keep. I move that selection to my colored background, and I hit Command J. Now, Command J is a duplicate shortcut. We're going to use that a lot. It will copy the pixels exactly in my selection, move them onto a new layer. So when I turn it off, I get this. And then I can turn on my color over the top of it, and I could even play with the opacity of my color. So that's a little bit more complex. And that looks okay. Let's try it with the Harvey or Oswald the Rabbit. Let's bring it in. Let's stretch it. Now, because I don't want these hard black lines, I'm going to stretch it, and I'm also going to blur it a little bit because I'm more interested in the color than these new outlines. So I say Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to really blur it out. So it's like soft watercolor. I can also transform it in other ways, right? I can flip it. And the last one I like to use is warp. And I can kind of stretch it to be whatever weird shape I want. And we'll learn a lot more about these later. Now, same thing. This is my background. I can select from my top layer all the empty space, say select inverse. So I'm selecting all of the actual pixels, not the empty space around them. Take that selection, copy it from this, Command J, duplicate it onto a new layer. It looks like that. And I can play with the opacity and which layers show how much. I can even play with blending modes and get something that's more interesting. So I'm liking this. It's subtle, it has gradations, kind of cool colors, warm colors at the edges, dissolving out, and little highlights of color where things get a little bit more dense linearly. All right, so if I'm happy with that, I can save that just as it is as the PSD file. It has all those options built into it. And then I can say File, Save As, a JPEG. that has color to the desktop, Command D. It's still fewer than 5 megabytes. So I have a black and white version and a color version that I can choose from. Either one meets the criteria of the assignment. I could also do something like this. Make a duplicate of my black line work, put it at 100%, or my red line work in this case. Change the color overlay to white, 100% white. And then I can change the background color. Make a duplicate of my blank white layer, and then fill that with other colors using color overlay, or even a gradient. So what kind of gradient? Well, let's do something warm to cool. I can play with the angle of it. I can play with how smooth it is. I can even replace my own colors in here. Like I said, limitless options. I can make it a radial gradient instead of linear. Lots of different things. Or, though it would probably get a little too busy, I could do some mixture of both approaches. Right? And we'll be learning a lot more about this later. I could even do things like offsets. So do a drop shadow behind on normal mode that's white. That's big enough and sharp enough that you can see the lines a little bit more clearly at 100% opacity. So many different approaches, whatever you kind of like the best. And the beauty of it is all of those different options. So let's say that's a third option I'll save. And I'll call this with background to the desktop as a JPEG. All of these options are all from the same PSD file. That all I have to do to update is just save it. It's just what layers I turn on, what effects I allow it to have. What opacity settings I use. Lots and lots of different creative solutions. Okay. So now that I have my JPEGs, I have 3 here as options. You only need to upload 1. Now I can go to Photo Bucket. And if you're using Chrome, hopefully you'll be logged in already. You go to the library. We'll get better and better at posting things to the right place. And you first want to navigate to the right folder. So we look under Digital Art 1, we go to Exercises, and my advice to you is whenever we have a presentation critique in class, make sure you have something up there with your name on it, even if it's not finished. Be part of the process. So Digital Art Exercises, I need to get into these subcategories. One of them will be the cartoon jumble.